and we're thinking about our teams and creating high performing teams are such because they interact with each other. They are a high performing team is the sum of their interaction, not the product of their not the sum of their parts. It's the product of their interaction. That interaction is all attribute based. Human interaction is really attribute based ultimately. And so if we want to think about our performance of our teams, we have to start thinking about, okay, where do we show up on the attribute scale? All of us have all of the attributes. The difference in each one of us are the levels to which we have each. So I usually use adaptability as the example. Adaptability of 10 is high and 1 is low. What that means, I would be about a level 8. So what that means is when the environment changes around me outside of my control, it's fairly easy for me to go with the flow and roll with it. Yep. Someone else might be a level 3, which means the same thing happens to them. It's difficult for them to go with the flow. No judgment there. I mean, however we show up, that's like judging our hair color. It is what it is, right? Yeah. But it behooves us to kind of think about what we show up with. I often use the Cars analogy because I love the movie Cars, not just because my kids made me watch it 1,000 times. It's a legitimately good movie, but it's also kind of cool because it's true. We're all automobiles, but we're different types. Like some of us are SUVs, some of us are Jeeps, some of us are Ferraris. Again, no judgment because the Jeep can do things the Ferrari can't do, and the Ferrari can do things the Jeep can't do. But it would behoove us to understand, to lift our engine or lift our hood and understand what type of car we're running with, because then that would start to inform us as to why we may feel friction in our lives. We may be and discover that we're a Jeep that's been trying to run on a Ferrari track, or a Ferrari that's been trying to run on a Jeep track. Now, even if that's the case, even if I say, hey, I'm a Jeep and I'm running on a Ferrari track, great, I still can do that because we have the choice to do that. But now I know what I need to work on to be a better Jeep running on a Ferrari track.
Yeah, upgrade that motor.
Upgrade that motor, right? So yeah, and suspension and probably tires.
Yeah.
But that's the idea behind attributes. Is that attributes are a view and a look into our own elemental performance, both for us as individuals and our teams.
Yeah, well, and I have to say it's brilliant because, years ago we put together our core values, which I now look at and say, oh, those are attributes.
Yeah.
And those really helped us, hire, fire, pick the right people, why some people make it, why some people don't. But we still had questions. When we read your book, it made it very crystal clear. Like, we're trying to train them on a skill, the people that were struggling, but it's really an attribute thing. And why do we all get, work together, and why do we attract these kind of people? And it came down to, it's all about the attributes.
Yeah, it's where we start. Even skills mastery starts with attributes. Our ability to master or learn any skills starts with attributes. And so everything comes back to these elemental things, which is why it's important for us to kind of get an understanding of them.
Well, it's brilliant. And as managers, there's 18 of us, and then we have 80 employees. It's invaluable because now we know how to better equip our employees to do a better job, feel better about their own performance, not trying to force them into being a Jeep when they're a Ferrari. It's extremely helpful for all leaders, I believe, in an organization to really understand this and put it into play.
You're so right, and I'm so glad it resonates. Anytime you're dealing with human beings, and helping human beings, empowering them or helping them grow or motivating, you have to understand where their attributes are. You have to, because if you don't, you're going to be asking them to do things that they may not be able to do, or there's a lot of friction doing, versus, oh, wait a second, I know this person's high on these few and low on these few. Let me capitalize my plan with them to direct them into some things they're high on, so they can start to see and understand where they can actually excel. Because we don't have to be high on all the attributes. In fact, that'd be bad too. Well, it's impossible, but also be bad. Sometimes the contexts of our lives, whatever niche we're in, doesn't require a lot of a certain attribute. I always say that comedians don't require a lot of empathy, okay? Because if you have too much empathy as a comedian, you're never going to find funny at a funeral with too much empathy. So too much empathy as a comedian may, in fact, inhibit their ability to be great comedians. And so these are the way we have to look at that: is what contexts are we and niche are we trying to succeed in, and what are the attributes required for that, and how does that line up to what we're presenting?
Sure. And even in like a large organization like ours, where do we put them that best place to their attributes? Maybe it's not working with the clients one-on-one, but night security is their gig because that's where their strengths are.
Yes,
and
totally.
Just, how to place people within the organization, knowing those attributes and where people lie.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not about getting rid of people. It's about placing people in the right position so that they're maximizing those things about them. Yeah.
I love that. All right, here's my final question for you. What is, and we talked about this prior, we both have a cold plunge. We've incorporated it into our lives. What other things are you doing today that sort of push you maybe outside your comfort zone or is new and different that you've not done your whole life?
Yeah, I mean, well, right now I'm gonna get back in the cold plunge, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out in a different way more consistently. So I've been working with some trainers, and they help team guys and former team guys with some real functional fitness type stuff. So it's not really CrossFit because it's not as fast and furious. It's actually kind of more what we. There was a time in the teams in the early 2000s where they looked at what CrossFit was doing. They looked at what athletes were doing, and they said, okay, there's something in between, kind of like functional fitness that actually serves our purposes. So there's a way to work out, and it's kind of weird because it's not the classic curls and bench and all that stuff. It's kind of like doing some curls, but you also have resistance on a band or something. So it's kind of weird exercises, but at my age, I want to make sure I'm working on those core faculties, and staying flexible and kind of agile. And so that's what I'm trying to do more of, trying to drink less beer. I always try to do that, and eat less
For many
carbs.
reasons,
Yeah.
that gluten. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, and eat less carbs.
Yeah.
And just really recognizing that we are in an age where the longevity space is going exponential. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's real potential for a lot of us to live well beyond 100. And so I think for me, it's like, okay, well, now what can I be doing to maximize that, in terms of sleep, in terms of supplements, in terms of cold plunges and things like that. So.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've been joking with myself lately because I feel like I'm cheating on CrossFit because
Yeah.
I've been such an avid CrossFitter, but I've been doing hot yoga because it's just stretching my body. It's getting
Yeah.
that flexibility, and I'm sweating profusely.
Detoxing,
It
yeah.
feels so good, and
Yeah.
my body has actually changed out of a CrossFit body more into like a yoga body. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
God, it's
Yeah.
it's a real thing, and I love it. I still love heavy lifting, like that's my thing. But I'm also enjoying venturing into other areas of health as well.
Yeah. Well, our bodies are best maintained through adaptation and flexibility. So
Yeah.
so it's great to do like some CrossFit for a few months, and then you shift into something like yoga and things like that, and then you shift into something else.
Yeah.
And the more we're forcing our bodies to just kind of continually adapt, grow, and change. I mean, that's youth right there. We're basically staying young by doing that. So.
That's what I think too. Yeah. Well, and part of 75 Hard is working out outside. So I'll switch.
Yeah.
Now I'm wearing the weight vest. Now I'm wearing the rucksack.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't seem like a big shift, but it's actually a really big shift when
Yeah.
you're carrying 30 pounds on your back as opposed to 30 pounds evenly placed over your body,
Yeah.
and just trying to create. Now I'm walking barefoot in the sand. Now I'm hiking in the forest.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Like same thing, just trying to constantly mix it up so my body's constantly sort of just adapting.
Active, yeah, and adaptive. And I would say those people who may not have the capacity or even the ability to work out. I mean, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Do some projects around the house. For me, we've been working so hard on the business that just this last weekend, my wife and I just gardened.
Oh,
for the whole
that's a good one.
whole weekend. So that was like on your knees weeding, and then you're lifting bags of mulch and things. That's all active stuff. I mean, it's all staying active and feeling embarrassingly sore afterwards. But but that's the point, right? So
100%. Well, and I think that's such a misnomer is people are like, oh, I need to get fit before I go in the gym, because
Right, yeah.
of how I'm going to look. And it's like, no, the point is just like the courage thing. Just go. Just
Yes.
start. Don't
Yeah.
put all that aside and just do something.
Totally. And also, being fit and being healthy are two different things. Someone can
Right.
be incredibly fit and not very healthy, and someone can be very healthy and not look very fit, right? So the idea is, can you do both? Because being fit is fun, and you feel like you look the part, you can kind of do a bunch of stuff, but health is, I mean, you can overwork yourself in fitness, and I mean, there are people who are dropping dead at 50.
Yep.
And they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that guy dropped dead. I mean, he worked out 3 times a day, and it's like, well, he worked out 3 times a day for 7 times. That might have had an effect on your stress. So
Yeah, but like very little calories.
yeah,
and
yeah.
just,
I mean, mental stress, mental well-being, being able to recover properly, taking that time, the time to do things that bring us joy.
Yeah.
It's not about going hard all the time. It's funny. I was just thinking about this because there's a mythology around SEALs. Jocko's helped with this because Jocko's such an intense dude.
Yeah.
But I would say Jocko's one of those guys who, he's not like your typical SEAL. I mean, most SEALs are not like Jocko.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this. A lot of guys I know, and these are some of the baddest ass warriors on the planet, right? They'll garden in their free time, or they'll surf, or they'll read. They're not raw all the time,
Yeah.
but it feels like, because again, because David is like, I mean, God, there's no one,
Exactly.
there's no one
We-
more
if we
raw
use
than
him as our
I mean, you talk about
yardstick, we're-
intensity.
yeah.
So we got two guys again.
Yeah.
They're doing incredible things,
Yeah.
but they're very intense role models, and so sometimes I worry that the perception of SEALs is that we're all super intense, right, all the time, and that's not the case, And I would imagine if I talk to guys like Jocko, he has his times where he's zen in the moment. Right? I don't know about David, but
I don't think David does.
yeah, I don't
No
know about
way.
David, but I think it's a better balance. It
Yeah,
really is. So.
I agree, and you're right. That is the perception of Jocko. But then when you listen to him, you realize he's just not. He is that way, but he's not that way.
He has a balance, and
Yeah.
I think that's what makes him successful. Is he has a balance. So
Yeah.
it is about doing those things that sometimes being soft and hard is really the key to longevity. But do both, and do both with purpose. And so when you go hard, and when you go soft, really go soft. It's okay.
I love that, and I think that's why you resonated so much with my group, because some people just could not get on board with the go hard like David Goggins all the time.
It's tough.
We love it. And
I
his story's amazing.
I can't even get on board with that.
Yeah, if I have like my feet looking like that, no way. I'm not continuing. I am tapping out.
Yes,
Like
I would
no,
never.
thank
I
you.
would never PT with David ever. And I love him to death. I would never
Yeah.
PT with him. He'd crush me.
He crushed me.
Yeah,
And so I think for a lot of people, they look at that when you say go hard, and they're like, I can't do that. And,
Right.
and that's why I love in your book how you put, like, all Navy SEALs aren't like these two guys.
Right.
And you, I believe, are the picture perfect of that, where you have the dichotomy of
Oh,
going hard, but also of that Zen side. And that's not more relatable, but it's relatable to a lot of people who
Yeah.
are in a similar situation. I really believe your book's going to reach a lot of people because of that.
Well, thank you. Yes, there are movies I cry at. So more often now that I'm getting older. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's parenting. As I get older,
Are they Star Wars movies?
No, I haven't cried at Star Wars, but I was watching with the most recent Spider-Man. I felt myself tearing up.
Oh.
I don't want to tell people what happened, but I was like, man. But I think I recognized this actually as soon as I got married and then became a parent. I'd watch Finding Nemo and I'd be like crying. I'd be like, "What's going on?" It's because now I have that perspective, right? So I think it's my hope, certainly my goal, to, as I get older, become more open-minded and more empathetic. I find that the hardest, most least fun people to be around are the old, grumpy, closed-minded people, right? They're no fun. They're really not, and they're just like, oh, back in my day, everything about it was like, it's just like, ugh, I don't like
uphill both ways. Yeah, we got it.
I want to be the open-minded, empathetic. Someone who, my uncle who passed a few years ago now, he's the epitome of this. I mean, and he would get excited, and he was in a wheelchair because he was diabetic, so he couldn't move very well, but he would get excited being around youth, and he'd just see their excitement in their eyes. Yeah. He'd be like, "Oh my God, this is so wonderful." He was just one of the most incredible. And my dad's the same way. I mean, I have good role models, luckily. But yeah, as I get older, I want to be more open-minded, more empathetic. So I'm okay. I'm okay crying a little bit more often.
I love that. Well, and I think what goes hand in hand, and this is something I've had to learn, because you're a female CEO, and you got to be tough, and you got to do this, and you can't show emotion. But I found what resonates with people outside of that is also showing your vulnerable side.
Yes.
Not weakness, not to the point where you look like a bad leader, but being willing to be vulnerable, expose your flaws or your emotions, and just being okay with that. Yeah. And that's been like really a big lesson for me in the last few years.
So you're absolutely right. I talk about vulnerability a lot in high-performing teams. It is absolutely an absolute necessary component of high-performing teams. And what I talk about is not the stigma of weakness. Vulnerability is about showing your strengths and your weaknesses. It's about wearing it all in your sleeve. Because if you wear it all in your sleeve, then your teammates know exactly when they can lean on you and when you'll be leaning on them. And that's the point. That's true confidence. That's true humility. That's when you get really hyper high performing teams, because now we're just clicking in a way. It's like as soon as it's my turn to step up, I step up, and as soon as things are outside my lane, I step back. It's just it's a vulnerability loop that happens that's really, really important, and one that the leader has to go first on.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I've worked on that, and at first, and I had it backfire on me, which solidified why I should never show that. But, when you have the right team, it just strengthens them, like you said, and then it opens that space for them to have those feelings of vulnerability.
I tell you, I say, people say, what's the most important thing about being a leader? There's many things, but I say one of the most important things you can say to people you are in charge of or who are in your span of care are three words: I need you. Because what you're telling them is you're saying, hey, what you do matters. What you do has purpose. I can't do what you do. You are here for a reason, and I need you on this team. We need you. That is so important for people to hear and know, because if they look at you as someone in charge who just has all the answers and they can't is inaccessible, they're not going to be motivated. They're not going to be empowered. In fact, they might be scared and they'll move on. So yeah, I need you. It's huge.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you talk about my guys about that
Okay,
because
right.
we're also as proud. We're not
Yeah.
gonna tell our people below us that we need them. We
Oh,
don't
yeah.
want to look weak, but I think you're right. It's empowering for especially the people below us.
I tell you what, it's really empowering also, but kind of scary is when you say it to your kids.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think one of the things about our kids is our kids, they're hopefully model 2.0 or 3.0 from us, right? And so they're better at certain things than we are, and they're better at they're smarter at certain things than we are. And so now there's an age that we could say, but there's nothing wrong with even saying, hey, you're doing an activity with a 5-year-old and you're saying, hey, I need you, I need your help, I can't do this without you. That really, think about what that does to a psyche for a child.
Mm-hmm.
They really start to understand, hey, this is a person who is going to allow me to grow and excel, and also not jump all over my when I make a mistake.
Yeah.
They're going to be here for me. So
Man, I wish I had that advice 20 years
Me
ago
too.
because I always had the strong
Yeah.
front and I don't want them to worry and I want them to be a
Yeah.
kid and I'm not going to show them I'm having a bad day
Yeah,
and I fronted the whole time.
Me too. Most of these lessons are in hindsight,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So with parents, you're always trying to do your best as
Yes.
parents, right? And you're always worrying that you're screwing it up. But
Yes.
you just do your best.
Yeah,
So.
but I will say when you don't overuse it, that one time you say you need it, they are there.
Yes.
They're like, oh, geez, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you must really need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't abuse it.
Yeah.
It can't be the parent can't be a dependent.
Right.
But it can be used very tactically in a positive way.
Oh, you're just so smart.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate this conversation so much. I feel like we could talk forever, but I also want to give you 2 minutes to go pee before we surprise my guys.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming on the show. This has been one of my very favorite conversations. Obviously we get along very well. We have a lot in common. I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so glad we could do it. I'm so glad we could do it in person.
Yes.
You and I have talked before. It's just, virtual is great and it's a very valuable technology that we have. But if you can do it in person, it's so much better.
I'll say that. The oxytocin in my brain is
Yeah.
going like way
Yes.
high. I feel good. I'm like, we can just be done now. I'm like, great.
And we're all warmed up for when we see your folks. Too,
Well,
so,
and that might be the heater that I've had on the whole time. I hope it wasn't too much for
It's not
you.
overwhelming. Don't
Okay,
worry.
good.
Yeah.
All right, well, why don't you tell our listeners, and we're going to put it all in the show notes, but where they can find you, what you're offering, and what they could do moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah. The best place kind of catch-all is theattributes.com. And there, the website, you can find the book. You can find the free assessment tools we have right now for grit, mental acuity, and drive. We're going to upgrade those here soon and add team ability and leadership. You can find some blog posts and things like that. Also, my social media handles are there for Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So theattributes.com, one-stop shop for everything.
Perfect. And
Yeah.
that's how I found you, and I got you, and I'm so glad I did.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I haven't quite figured out the whole ending. It's like awkward,
That's okay. That's okay.
Awesome. Well,
Okay.
let's get.
How are we doing? People are probably here. But what we can do is we can get people are here.
They're like, I quickly unlocked the door.
Yeah, they're dying to come in.
Because they're dying to come in. Wait 1 second.
Are they all outside? Oh, they're
We
in
have
there.
that
Oh, okay.
other office that
So I can
you-
probably sneak to the bathroom.
Well, yeah, how are you? they're all in the other room. Because I
Yes.
locked this door.
Okay, so why
Oh, I
don't we
see.
do this? I'll sneak Rich out this door, and then let's let them all through right
wait a
there.
minute. So, of course, they left the door open and you have the glass door here. Let me go close it.
Glass door? It's okay. Are they standing in that room?
Yeah. No, not in the room, but they're like looking in. trying
Okay,
to
cool.
see
So
what's
I'm just going
happening.
to get Rich to go to the bathroom over here, and we'll get them to all come in through here.
Or we can do the surprise.
Let's
and
do
then I
that.
can
And
hit the
then you
bathroom.
can-
Let's do that. Get
It's not, we're not,
everybody.
we're not on- we're not on-